13th Park Trails and Lakes Commission. Jamie, do you want to do roll call?
Chair Steenblock,
Here.
Commissioner Geyer,
Here.
Commissioner Ramseth,
Here.
Commissioner Steenblock,
Here.
Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Moorhead, Commissioner Gary.
Present.
All right, so next we're looking for approval for the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Make a motion to approve agenda.
Second.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And then I do see some folks here, Jamie, with open forum. Or maybe with open forum. Thank you. All right, so first on the list, we have Bill Moore. Do you want to come up to the podium here? And
Hi, my name is Bill Moore. I reside at 1445 Bay Drive Southeast, which is adjoining the Bayview Park, the north side of the Bayview Park, south side of my lot. And last year, the Public Works took down the trees and shrubs that were a natural privacy, which was working terrifically to keep the park in the park and my land on my land. And I was reading in here that the Public Works did remove these items without an intent to replant and still does not recommend anything be replanted. I'm wondering what the objection is there by them.
well, Mr. Moore, we will be talking about this. We've got it on the agenda
Okay.
This evening. And we've been doing some back and forth as a commission with staff. And we are going to be making a recommendation this evening.
Okay. Unfortunately, I can't stay. I have other commitments, but I wanted to stop in and just make sure that this is getting addressed, and it looks like it is getting addressed. If and when they decide to put something there, I'd like some input on what exactly would be going in there. I'm looking for privacy and, something to keep the traffic down. I've already got bikes going through there and people walking through there. So it could become problematic, and I'd like to take care of it before it does.
Okay.
So if you decide to do something, I'd like some input on, or let me know what you intend to put there to see if that really suits my needs as well as the city's.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody have any? Nothing else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we have Gary Lee next.
As most of you probably already know, that it's National Pickleball Month, the month of May, and I'm sure that you knew that. And so our group suggested that we have a couple of people come and make sure that that is recognized. And so what they did was they chose the oldest pickleball player and the shortest pickleball player to come and do this. But seriously, we have 219 members of our Forest Lake area pickleball group that play on an irregular basis. And any morning you might find 25 or 30 players there between 8 o'clock and 11 o'clock in the morning, or between 5 and 8 in the evening. And what we want to do is to say a special thank you to the Parks Department and also to the Public Works Department, who have done such an excellent job not only setting up the courts in the first place, but maintaining them and putting them together in the spring and taking them nets and so on down in the fall and storing them and so on. And we are very appreciative of that. And so as a small token of our appreciation, we've got a little gift for you.
Comes with gifts. Nice. Are we allowed to take them?
And is this an indoor and outdoor, though?
This is outdoor.
And it says flap on it.
Does it come with
That
lessons?
means Forest Lake Area Pickleball.
Thank
It's not
you.
flap.
It says oinks. What is oinks?
Thank you.
They're also good for dogs, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
you.
And the windscreens, we really appreciate those.
All right, well, I think that covers open forum. So now we would be moving on to 5A, which is the regular meeting minutes for April 19th. Looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on those meeting minutes? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Oh, and then abstain. Anybody need to abstain? I can't.
Commissioner Moorhead
Would,
abstained from the April
oh, from the April ones. Okay.
19th.
Okay,
No problem.
all right. Did I, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstain
Abstained.
to April 19th. Okay. We're just going to go with it.
You know, it's not a big deal, but
Yeah, I
since
was going to say, Karen, Commissioner Moorhead was not present at that meeting,
Okay.
so I
I
think
had
we
the
should.
meetings completely mixed up, so I shouldn't have
yep.
made the motion.
Correct.
I'll make a motion for the regular meeting minutes on April 19th, 2022.
So we have a motion,
Second.
and we have a second. And hearing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? And abstain?
2.
All right. All right, so now we go on to 5B, which is the park event permit for the Twin Cities Powerboat races.
All right, Chair and Commissioner.
not seeing anything on my screen.
Okay, I'll pull it up here. Should be loaded unless it had a malfunction. Give me one moment. I'll get this up on the screen.
I see this.
Click on that one.
Okay.
I didn't do it.
That's very good.
Hang on a
Mine
second.
did it.
All right. Well, I will go through this here quick. Let me try to get that up on my screen here.
I don't have it either.
It was just working before, so let's see if I can get it to click again.
So this is for the Twin Cities Powerboat Association for August 20th and 21st from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it is the Powerboat Regatta, which has occurred, I think, for several years now.
Yeah, so I'll get started. This one is, I apologize for that difficulty there with the packets loading. I'm just seeing here if I can get that up. Okay, so we'll go through this one. This is a pretty familiar event for you guys. It's our park event permit application for the Twin Cities Powerboat Racing. This has become an annual event that you are all probably familiar with. This year, this group is looking to have the event on Saturday, August 20th, and Sunday, August 21st, both days from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Again, this has become a popular event where it brings in about 500 to 1,000 people to our downtown for their powerboat races, bringing people in from Forest Lake and other communities. During this event, they do temporarily close down the beach and the dock access just to ensure spectator safety while the event is taking place. They will use a significant portion of the parking lot. They do bring extra portable restrooms in and have food trucks on site. We also do receive liability insurance with the city listed as additional insured for this event. We've had really good success. We haven't had any issues over the last few years, and really a lot of the community members really enjoy having this in downtown to go watch the event over the weekend. So with that, we are looking for approval to have the powerboat races at Lakeside Memorial Park this summer. It'd be August 20th and 21st. And just seeking approval under the stipulations that we've had in place over the last few years where they can obtain the parking lot, a certain dedicated area starting Friday, the 19th at 4:30 p.m. That, let's see, so I have a map of that they pay for their additional portables for their 2-day event. We have their insurance, and all of their permits that are required from the city, county, and state are obtained. So with that, happy to answer any questions or seeking approval.
No questions.
I make a motion that we approve the permit for paper.
Twin City Powerboats.
Yes, for the Powerboat races, August 20th and 21st. I just had it, August 20th and 21st.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion?
We've never had any problems with that before, that anything's been reported, and they bring an awful lot of people in, and
Yeah.
great entertainment to watch. So I have no problems if we haven't heard of any kind of conflicts or anything.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, so now we move on to, sorry, Betty. Now we move on to 5C, which is this field scheduling agreement with Forest Lake School District.
Okay. We're getting up and running here for you. Just give me 1 second. All right. So, Chair and members of the Parks Commission, the next item on the agenda for consideration tonight is an agreement with the Forest Lake Area School District for scheduling of our athletic facilities. We have an opportunity to form a partnership with the school district to have a solution to our field scheduling challenge and have an efficient and unified scheduling process. We currently don't have any software or the staff or capabilities in-house to schedule our facilities online, which is something that we really have been interested in doing so that people can see when fields are available, when they're booked, similar to our picnic shelters. We can do some basic scheduling there. So the school district has those capabilities with their community education programs and scheduling of their athletic and building facilities as well. So we have an opportunity to work together with them. Through this, we'll be able to collect some important data for continuing to evaluate the utilization of our athletic fields, which will really help us determine what our needs are for expansion and growth as the community continues to grow. So as outlined, there is a cost. Again, this is some of their staff time and a small fee for our software setup to add our facilities to their existing software. So in all, this is a really, exciting opportunity for the city. The Forest Lake Area Athletic Association already works closely with the school district for all of utilization of their facilities, so it's a very familiar process for them. And so this would be a very streamlined process, knowing that they're also our primary user group as well. So this is something that they're very excited about. And building a city and school and athletic association partnership, we'd also then be able to send any other interested parties, whether it's other schools in the district or private schools, community members. They would just go to that one area, go to them to schedule, and it would be a very streamlined process. So with that, happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, looking for approval on a field scheduling agreement with the district.
Jamie, to me, this sounds like a good deal for the city as well as the school in utilizing that system. When somebody wants to schedule a city ballpark, how do they know to go to the school system to schedule it?
So with this, if approved, we will put something on our website that clearly indicates where to go. There's going to be a direct point of contact with the school district, so they can contact them directly and work with them on getting that scheduled. And they have a very streamlined, the software, that program that they have is very simplistic. It can generate reports or invoices almost immediately. So we will make sure that communication is from our website. So it's clearly communicated. So previously, people would find that on the FLAW website when they were scheduling different fields and such. So we will have that on our city's website and direct them to where they need to go.
That might answer my question. I'm not sure, though. You know how hard we've worked to have a good relationship with FLA, and we've made them the owners of the scheduling process. And now you're saying there's a partnership. So if someone schedules something through the school and FLA has already used the facilities, who knocks out who?
So as listed in the agreement, we will provide just a very high-level guideline to the school district so they know what the order of priority of scheduling is. So we know FLA is our priority scheduler for Fenway and Cooling Camp and Schilling, but we'll have that identified. So really the district's just doing the active scheduling, but we will provide that guidance of.
Okay, because it was more than those 3 areas that they were scheduling for. And I just don't want that to start anything up again where, something is scheduled. So as long as it's a partnership and as long as the
Right.
school knows to go through FLA and they're happy with it,
Correct.
have you had any discussion with FLA about this agreement?
They haven't seen the specific, but yes, they really are excited about the opportunity to have our city fields scheduled through the district. It's a process they're very familiar with when they need indoor and outdoor spaces with the district. So they're very familiar with the point of contact. They're very familiar with the process. So essentially, it would just be adding our 3 or 4 parks that have ball fields to their list of inventory that can be scheduled. And then it could be scheduled on through there, so.
I just feel again, I don't know exactly how I'll vote on this because I feel again that FLA should have been shown this and actually enter into a partnership rather than we think they're gonna like it. Maybe they will. But if they don't, then I have a problem with it. And so until I know that, not
Yeah,
sure.
I guess I'm communicating that my confidence that FLA is aware of this and very excited about it.
Okay. Well, they'll speak up if they're not.
Yes.
Okay.
Jamie, I thought we had talked about Belts Park not being a scheduled field.
Right.
We talked about it not being priority scheduling for FLA, but it is something that is still, could be scheduled. So it was not included in our FLA agreement to be priority scheduling. However, we do still want it to be scheduled. So if Community Ed needed it for T-ball, they could put that on the schedule for Belts Park. Or if you wanted to reserve Belts Field number 1 for a kickball tournament, we could schedule that. So we still do want it scheduled. It's just not a priority scheduling for FLA.
The same way with Shelling?
Schilling is on there to be scheduled. FLA can have the priority window of time to schedule that, and then it can be scheduled by yourself or anybody else in the community.
Okay.
And Jamie, you might have said this and I missed it, but they're gonna collect the fees for that and then remit them back to the city?
The payments will be, a check will be made out to the city of Forest Lake directly. So it would, the payment will be coming to the city and we will
Okay.
collect that. They're really just utilizing their software program to put that on the calendar for our city fields so that everybody can see that those are scheduled out and they'll manage that process. So if there's a rain out, a cancellation, a reschedule, that will be handled in that manner.
So I think when I was looking at this, when you sent it earlier, it's a $10,000 fee that the city will be paying to the school district to do
Yep,
this?
a total for throughout the year,
Okay.
broken down in those prime months.
Okay.
And again, calculated on staff time and a nominal fee for adding us on to that program. But it's significantly less expensive to do it that way than us to buy the software and have staff to do that ourselves. So it's certainly, a cost-effective solution for the city.
So does that come out of Parks, Lakes, and Trails?
It'll come out of our parks programs budget, but is again offset from park rental fee revenue that we've received. So it's not going to have a negative impact on our budget. It's,
Well, we would have gotten those fees anyways, right? If people reserved the,
right,
Okay.
for field maintenance and programs and things of that nature. So it'll offset with that revenue that comes in.
okay. Is that a fairly expensive software?
I think the overall program, it's intended for managing large volume of programs and activities. I know, so I think it is a fairly substantial amount, and we're paying a very, very small fraction of that. I think it was like $1,000 for our add-on fee. So I think it's a very nominal cost.
Okay, so the remainder of that is
Staff.
for their
Yep.
staff time to manage
Correct.
it.
Yep.
And FLA does not have the same software?
No.
Okay.
The program, I believe, is LEO, and it's well-known for school districts and communities that do a lot of programming and activities. It's a program management software program. and they use it for all of their existing programs and activities and fields and facilities. And this has been run through the school district. They had a cabinet meeting last night, so just pending their final blessing at their cabinet meeting. Parks Commission, if approval tonight, will move forward and have a fully executed agreement. But their first review of it weren't any concerns.
So this would address one of the issues we had on one of the planning topics that we had, where we wanted a communications resource, and we wanted software that helped with scheduling and a transparent process, and that would at least get us to the place where we have software that allows it to be scheduled, and there's a resource to do that scheduling. So essentially what I'm saying is this allows us to check off something at least that we had on our list.
I think that between my, speaking on behalf of
staff.
the Parks Department, I think it's a really efficient way to streamline field scheduling for all user groups, not just FLA, but to start developing a process where the community can understand we have fields available, they're available to rent, and a very simple one-stop shop, in a sense, to contact here and you can rent the fields. So I think it's gonna be a really efficient opportunity, and I think it's really a great partnership between city, school, and even our athletic association to streamline that process for them, so they don't have somebody from softball coming to the city to try to schedule our fields, but then softball's going to the school district to schedule their fields. It's just they can all go to one location and get it done more efficiently. So I think it's really a positive, and I think we'll be happy with trying that out.
Just one more question. It may be off the beat a little bit here, but so many times we're wondering if we could have one source for community members to go and find out who's doing what where and what activities are around. Would there be an opportunity with this software that they have to increase not just the fields, but activities that the city is providing?
Without having had that conversation, I can't say for certain. However, I would feel that there could be that opportunity. I think right now we rent out our picnic facilities, but we have a very manual process in that. So that could be something we can potentially expand to streamline that as well and make that more efficient for the community. So I do think there could be additional opportunities.
Okay. Any other discussion? Motion?
Make a motion to accept the agreement as written.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Jamie, on this one too, can we just get a recap at the end of the season, kind of how it went?
Yeah, and
like we've done with other.
I do have in my notes to get you guys like a mid-season recap
Okay.
from our last meeting. So I will work on that for our June meeting to have kind of a update on where we're at with everything and scheduling.
This would be a one-year agreement.
Correct.
Yes. All right, so next on the list, we have the Bayview Park planting.
All right, so Chair and members of the Parks Commission, just wanted to bring this forward as an agenda item tonight per the request of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission at our April meeting. I know we've heard from resident Bill Moore here tonight and previously, and this has come before the commission a couple of times. So just a quick recap for those who may not be aware, as we heard tonight last October, there was a request for Public Works to address some trees in Bayview Park that were infringing on the residents' property. And Public Works did notice that the trees in question had buckthorn and were in poor condition, so they did take all of the trees down. That's when we first heard from the resident, being a little surprised that all of the trees were removed when the request was more specific to one tree. But that was the reason that they were removed, and Public Works has not had an intention to really replace them and still stands, firm on not replacing things at this Bayview Park. So at our last meeting, I did share an update on this, and again, it was requested that this be on our agenda tonight, so, let's see. Obviously, we've heard that since the park season's kind of kicked off here, residents are exiting the park and starting to infringe on the residents' property a little bit, so I did want to just share some pictures. You know, here are a couple before pictures showing the residence property with the buffer there with the plantings between his property and the park. And then here's another version from the park view. So, you know, it is pretty, providing a buffer between there so people understand where it's the park, public park area and his residence. So this is what it looks like now. So it's obviously cleared out. So with that, I know, again, this was a request of the Parks Commission to be on the agenda. I'm happy to answer any questions. Looking for your recommendation on this one.
Well, I'd like to know, why does the city insist upon being a bad neighbor
Yeah.
in this? It's just, they took it out. Now there's a problem with people crossing this homeowner's property, and we insist that it's not a problem for the city. I don't understand.
I agree.
I agree also. And even so, I mean, all there now is dirt. There's not even any grass. Nothing was put back there. Not even grass.
Yeah, I don't know if grass was planted or not, or if seed was put down yet this spring. But I know just with anything, any additions to parks, it's always you always think about the park maintenance and the long-term effect of that, so.
Did they have any, I'm sorry, did they have any special meeting with the neighbors before they did this? They call a meeting of the neighbors at all?
It's
Because
just
I think
this
it's one
neighbor.
thing we don't do is talk to people. We just do it and expect them to want to like it.
This was a situation where it was one neighbor. He had concerns about them
Over his garage.
over his garage and asked them to trim it, and
Oh,
they
and that's
just
the one.
completely removed it. So we saw him at Open Forum several months ago. Since then, I've asked for follow-up on this 2 times, and I'm ready to make a motion to move forward on this one. So I'm going to make my motion and we can have discussion, but at this point, my motion is that the city replaces the trees that were removed from Bayview Park this past October by July 1st of 2022. The trees or shrubs are to be selected at the discretion of city staff based on maintenance, soil condition, and other environmental factors. However, the trees or shrubs selected must be an appropriate size to provide an immediate barrier with the potential to grow so the end result is comparable to what was previously there, providing a reasonable coverage and barriers between the park and the neighboring residents. The purchase of these replacement shrubs or trees is to be paid for by the city, and an update on the purchase to be provided at our next meeting. Because we've been incredibly patient asking for something here on multiple occasions to address this issue. And so I want it resolved by July 1st. And I want this poor guy to not have to come to our open forums again to say, where are we at with this? This was a place, in my mind, where they were removed and they should be replaced. The city should be responsible for paying for them. I put in my motion that I want it to be something that is of appropriate size, because I don't want some little 2-inch seedling going there. It needs to be something that provides some immediate barrier. And while we're at it, I'm gonna throw into my motion that we also plant grass seed just to make the park, from a maintenance perspective, if it needs grass seed, plant it. Because when I was out there the day of our last meeting, there was no grass seed planted at that time. It was mud. So that is my motion. If you need me to repeat it, I'm happy to do so.
A little more gusto next time, would you?
Would you?
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, I'll second that for discussion.
Okay, so we've seconded, and any discussion?
You know, and they talk about trees, would shrubs not make a more definite line
They might.
and maybe a little bit easier to guarantee they're going to grow? I just think a line of shrubs would be a much more divisive barrier there, so you put trees or shrubs.
Yep,
And I
yep.
don't want them, like you said, to come and put 3 little trees.
yep.
It's gonna take forever them to get big enough, so I would suggest shrubs, but.
And I'm leaving it at some discretion of the city based on the soil conditions. I'm hoping that if we put a deadline on it and we require them to come back next month, we'll have an update. If not, I'll make a motion next month on what to plant there.
See, Terry, would it be appropriate to see if Bill agrees with everything?
Is he still here? No, he's not here any
Oh,
longer.
we left
He
him.
had to leave.
Oh, okay.
So I think though, as part of this, the city can follow up with him but it needs to be something. Again, I was out there and he's saying bikes are riding across his lawn, people are walking across it. There needs to be something there. This is a replacement.
Yeah, basketball court is just out of the frame. I
Yep.
mean, it's that close to his house.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any more discussion on this? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, so next we go on to the Veterans Memorial Concept Plan.
All right, I'm going to let Ron Miller and Mark Finneman take the podium this evening, and they are going to present to you our concept plan for Veterans Memorial Project. So I will bring that up, and welcome Ron and Mark.
Yes, so I'm Ron Miller. I've been the chairman since the start of this in 2009. Phase 1 was to get a plaque about this big, which was dedicated by the Chamber of Commerce back in the 1970s, mid-1970s, and it had veterans' names on it, 24 names. We put that plaque on sandstone or limestone, whatever, block right by the gazebo. So if you're by the gazebo and you look to the south, that's where that one is. So that was phase 1. Phase 2 was all the area there at the end of Broadway, where the flags are, and having that as, okay, this is where we're gonna have a, Veterans Memorial. And we've been selling pavers ever since 2009. So we have 328 that are in the ground. And then last November, we dedicated 5 more. They actually didn't come because of supply issues and whatever on the granite company, and one of those was Dan Steenblock's. So I have that group of 5, and we'll be putting those, I'm gonna have them, instead of putting them in the ground now, which is what I typically do, I'm gonna hang on to them for Memorial Day so the families can see those 5, okay? And then the ones that were for Memorial Day, which is 5 more plus 2, those will be there also, and we'll dedicate those at the Memorial Day service, which we do jointly, the VFW and the American Legion. I happen to be the American Legion chaplain. Anyhow, so that's phase 2, is continuing on those pavers. And so phase 3, let Mark talk about that.
Thank you. It is nice to finally be on the road with a tangible idea that we can kind of present and see if people understand and have a good conversation about it. So your first stop. I don't know exactly how we're going to move through the city process, but I think we have to touch base all the way up to city council and see what kind of reaction we get on this. We're trying to make a much more formal presentation for the memorial versus what is out there today. And I don't think I have to orient you to where that plan is or what that location is, because you folks know that pretty well. But we're sort of like the third roundabout going toward the lake. Mm-hmm. And it's a good form. The round form really works in so many different ways. What we wanted to do is take the pavers, pick them up off the ground, don't make them feel like they're any kind of walking surface, and get them elevated so there's much more prestige with that. They're only, what we're doing here is we're building kind of planter areas, just to give it a term. Planter areas where there's 3 of them that we can put the pavers in, where plants can be there until pavers arrive and they can ebb and flow back and forth. The more pavers, the less plants. And we can fill those territories out that way. The design essentially is wanting also to project the idea of the 6 services that are out there, the military services. So we have, can we go back a little bit?
Sure. Yep. Right here?
And on that, let me excuse you, Mark. So the lake is on this side of this picture, okay? And here's Broadway, the end of Broadway, so this is facing west, that's north up and south is down, and so the building, the bathroom building is right here, the lake's over there, so we're talking about that area.
Okay, a little more clarity there, so. And this is sort of a blow-up. You don't see the bathhouse and the plaza building and the rest. There was another drawing that precedes this that would show it a little bit more from a greater height, and that would have shown you those areas around it to understand what the orientation was. But we want to take advantage of that position to present those pavers and continue that idea of the pavers. You heard how many we have already, so I think if you give it a very formal presentation that's well structured, that paver sales will jump pretty dramatically. And we need a tool to go out for funding and to get our tacit approvals from different groups. So there's around this center circle, which is probably different than the sidewalks. It's got more of a paver and improved floor area to it. That's sort of the observation or circulating territory around a central feature. The central feature we'd like to see reach for fine art. I'd like to see it be, it's probably the most significant public area for public art that you have in the city. And we want to do it justice and see if it can't be a significant statement that maybe becomes a deep, signature of the park. And so I think we're putting a lot of weight on that central feature to be strong. Then around that, we just simply circulate, and then they get to look out to the planter areas I was talking and view the pavers down at only about 16, 18 inches off the ground, and only about 6, 7 feet deep to be able to see them. And then the 6 sentries, which go around the outside of it, they're equally spaced all the way around on the easterly side. There's the 6 services. Each one wants to talk a little bit about that service. We thought it would be great to show the medallion of that service in color possibly, and to give it a place where it has information as well. So the sentry declares itself with the logos, and it talks about their particular service on another platform in that same sentry area. So they walk around these planter areas, and on the one you see to your left toward the city streets, that paver area is also, and then we are not filling that territory yet for some time, but that's where the kiosk that will talk about the memorial and describe what it's all about will be, and it will also be the presentation of the American flag. So we have the American flag in a very prominent place, right off that center line of all the roundabouts. And the other flags will remain as they are, but they might change in what they say on those flags. So the city sidewalk could stay just the way it is, and we could just repair and fix and add sidewalk areas that feed into this. The idea is that we want to welcome people in. We really want them to be compelled to come through this memorial, because that's what we're trying to show them. And I guess now you could probably go to the next slide. The sentries around the outside are embedded in that planter area. You can see that there's an attempt to put the logo, and then there's an informational sign area that's on the other face. You'll see that slightly differently. But the idea right now is to just have this blade. The material is evolving as we find out about costs and the consequences of material, and to saddle that on both sides with stone in this particular point in time. So stone saddles on both sides holding this blade, all leaning toward that center point. And so everything orients back to that center point where that sculpture is. You can go on. That's looking at it. There's the plaque that would have the information. You kind of see how the wider elements are the stone, and the blade goes right up through the middle of it, almost as if it segmented those stones. We have a lot of options of what those materials can be as we go along and figure this out. And the planter is a series of pavers that are around the base of that. So you see it from the planter side on the right and from the outside on the left, where people would come up and read that plaque. It's about 6 feet tall. Okay, Jamie. The informational kiosk is much the same thing. It's not trying to be different. It's just going to do a different thing. So it's turned around and facing that inner circle. And that's where we'll have some sort of, like you do today, some sort of ability to shield and protect information and open it up and be able to understand what's going on at the memorial and what the theory is behind the memorial. We can run back through these pictures quickly again if you want to kind of I just want to get you reoriented here. The idea here is that central feature is coming up as two podium pieces, one high enough to be a seat, the second one high enough to elevate the sculpture up above it all. So this is an attempt to really talk about a central feature being something more than, I don't know, this has got a concept behind it. The concept is essentially that there's this rock outcropping. Maybe it's North Shore kind of thing, and outside of that comes this kind of cypress or cedar or whatever the old trees are that grow right out of that cracks. And on that tree are two eagles. As we go up, it's abstract up the rock area, abstract up the tree, but when it gets to the eagles, 100% realism. And we think we can get exactly that story. So it's sort of like them sitting in display on an abstract framework. In some ways, it could look like one of those World War II war scenes where you look up at after the battle, there's this symbolic thing that happens in the leftover tree that's still there. That's just me thinking. I lost Ron somewhere along the line.
I'm over here on the,
Oh.
I'm using the cursor, moving the cursor
He's
around.
mobile.
And so let's now just jump to rotating around that. So it differs all the way around. And it's nice to have the eagles not looking one way or just one eagle. It's nice to have the eagles representing and presenting themselves to all points of that park, forward and back. And that'd be the American flag that's just kind of oriented to it. Just another view of it again, because I'm trying to show you the life that comes with the eagles. This is looking toward the park. This is looking toward the park place. As we go along, you can kind of see it from a far away how low the planters are, how low their stature, and how these blades are really not intrusive in the park. They just are really, unless you see them broadside, they don't really stand out as objects. And then it moves into the more significant central feature. Can you zoom in on that central feature? Well, the more you zoom in, the more you can kind of see the pavers and the planters. Forgive me for calling planters all the time, but it seems to be the easiest word. Then that central feature where it rises up as a podium to something, a significant sculpture. That's what this is trying to represent. It's representing this so that we can price something. These are the extent of the pavers, the extent of the ground pavers, and central feature that will cost X. And we're trying to get it close enough to something significant so we can be pricing something significant. And so you can go and look at it the other building side too and kind of zoom in after you get that one, where the plaza building is. And so here again, maybe hard to see from a distance, at least it is for me, but if you move in, you can see how the sculpture resides next to that building, how the low platforms are acting. We put benches around the outside just of our own design. We don't know how we're interrelating with other benches. The other benches seem to be looking in that direction, and our tendency is to want to look out from that radius instead of in toward it. And so that's the general idea at this point in time. I think we have a tool that we can price, so we can bring a budget forward as well. And we have a tool that could begin funding and begin, not formal approvals. We're not asking for anything at this point in time. But we want to be a partner to the city in all sorts of ways to see if we can achieve this. It'll take a while, but I think this is something that can promote the idea. So with that, run back through them however you like or ask any questions you might want.
Okay. Well, Mark, I think you were there last night at the presentation.
I
for the
was not.
city. Oh, you weren't,
The
okay.
downtown plan?
Yes.
I
And-
know it intimately though.
Okay, because this is going to be a major part of their vision, this area.
Yep.
And, I'm all for the veterans, and I think raising those stones up, or the pavers, is an excellent idea. I always hate walking over them. I think it could be a beautiful addition. I'm just really worried right now that we have to keep working on it, whether this downtown thing ever comes out or not. But this is definitely a big space for them that they're talking about.
Yes, I'm part of the EDA, so I've been walking along that whole story in the downtown committee. They planted this little kind of schematic down in the middle of their plan too, just to show that they're trying to acknowledge that territory. Their plans do not fight this in any way. Even their idea about viewing the lake through this kind of narrow territory you have from the roundabouts and keeping that lake view open as much as they can, I don't believe we're at all fighting that story. In fact, we're putting a feature inside of that lake view that is foreground that I think is something that draws attention as well. But we stay low-rise for everything else, so their goal of just keeping that vision open without the bathhouse in there, however we achieve that, it's certainly my goal as well. I'd like to see the bathhouse be reconfigured in some other way, and that really makes the park seem so much bigger. You take that object out of there, and the park will expand in terms of its feeling dramatically. And this, I think, is a good centerpiece to the whole story.
Well, Ron, it's a very big step up from the water park you were thinking at one time, and I'm much more in favor of this than that.
Yes, the water, but you know, George Bonfee was the one that was pushing the water park, and it was a good idea in the
Yeah.
sense of drawing kids and whatever. But the maintenance of it, and et cetera, and we do have water there, just, 100 feet away is a big lake, nice big forest lake. But, so we always have had the idea of, okay, Veterans Memorial, let's concentrate on that memorial site and that water park part, that, that would splash thing, if that ever happened, that was,
That was a mess.
a whole different part. And so Mark has done well as to bringing this all in, I think so.
Beautiful.
We need the tools to keep talking. So we're talking here now, we'll talk elsewhere. There's a shot of putting this into the legislature for funding. We just need to begin that funding and see what kind of reaction we get. And so now we have the ability to do so. We have something that lets people feel like they can see it in place.
I think your design is really striking. It's
Beautiful.
You've done a
Thank you.
great job. I think it's great.
I echo that. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It's classy, it's beautiful. It actually highlights, to me, it's Lakeside Memorial Park. And it highlights it, and it does it in a really nice, classy, it's honorable way.
Now, the pavers would be in this area here, if you can see the cursor on the right, kind of the right side, they'd be in that area, and it's up like Mark said, say a 1.5 feet or whatever. Also in this area on the left, so they'd be in that circle area, so they're up where people wouldn't necessarily be standing on where, now if they want to take a picture or whatever, you can be solid, but most people wouldn't be walking on them, which,
I mean, kids will climb on it.
yeah, that's,
How many pavers do you estimate it would hold?
Probably 3 times the present amount, 2.5 times, somewhere in there. It all depends on how you lay them out. You give it a lot of space, you don't give it much space. It's going around a semicircular thing, so it has to be spaced a certain degree. But we kind of picture that in pea gravel, black pea gravel, and then the paver, and set up a format of how they get paved, put around.
right now I have the pavers all along that sidewalk that goes north-south through there, and it's a little bit of a curve. And so I'm putting a rectangle and a little bit of a curve, so when Mark came up with this bigger curve, I was like, oh, I don't know, hard enough to. But actually, it's gonna look better in the way he's got it in those semicircles, and we'll just have a material in between them, so they don't, they're gonna be touching at corners, whatever, but.
I think the part I really do like is that it can evolve. We don't fill out, the sections yet, but that's a nice planter area, be it poppies or other things that can survive in there. And we just transition, because the idea of the base is much the same for both.
And as far as space-wise goes, I already mentioned, that the sidewalk that goes north-south, that's a little bit of a bend to it, where the pavers are now. That and the podium, the stainless steel podium, which you can lift up, and there's a notebook in there talking about all 300 and some veterans' names that are on there. That area where that podium is basically where the main center feature that Mark is talking about that's where that would be. Okay, the flags that are on there now, the 4 or 5 flags that are in that semicircle on the little bit wider, those would stay where they are, and then you saw, he had the blue benches in there, they would be on that semicircle sidewalk. That semicircle sidewalk can probably stay exactly where it is. So we're talking about inside of that, so that grassy area. So that's the territory that we're talking about. We did go, Jamie and Mark and I, and I think Gary was there, and Gary's on the team too, and Dave Roving of chaplain of the VFW, Bob Detmer, and then the Forest Lake Chamber is open for people to come, whatever. Anyhow, we met with Dave Adams and Ryan Goodman, whatever. Anyway, the city engineers or whatever said, okay, what's in this spot? What's under the ground? What do we have to worry about? There's a sewer line that goes there from the bathhouse, but that's down under there, and that's, big deal. That can stay there. There is a water line that comes from the west, comes headed east towards the lake, and then it hits right about in this area. It hits a right angle, so a T, and it goes off to the south. Now that and there's a valve there. So we talked to in that meeting, and I suggested, well, one of the things that would work out really well is if we just take that, and it's an old valve anyway, been there for a long time. If we go ahead and instead of having that come down at a 90-degree angle, let's cut across there on a 45. Let's cut it back to the west, put the valve there if you want to, and then come over on a 45, and then hit a 45 to go down to the south. And that way, that whole, it's a big pipe, water main would not be underneath this anymore. And other than that, there's, like just little, telephone things and whatever, minor things to go through that I had a whole locates done last fall.
My approach to the utilities has been, we tried to sit on top of it and be something you could take apart and put back together, but totally concede to the idea in Public Works. They want, if they have to get in and fix something, they want to be free to do that. So moving that utility becomes something that probably is borne by this project in some fashion. So we'll have to add it into how we think about the cost of doing this. But I think, in the long run, there's been a series of things in the downtown planning plan that talk about that boathouse moving, bathhouse, moving and being engaged some other way. I think I know which way they're going to do it, but if you haven't seen it, I don't want to make it a complicated story. But if that moves, this sanitary line goes, and we just have the water to work with. So my hope is that over time, because this is not going to be a really fast thing, over time the city decides to do some of these things about the downtown park, and maybe even decides to move that bathhouse. If they make those decisions, then our road is a little clearer.
But it could stay where it is right now, and it wouldn't be impeded. It's out of our. It's right next door. It'd be nice if it wasn't there. It's right next door, but it can be there for however long.
Yeah, it survives in this picture, but it's that but.
Lighting?
Yes, there'll be lighting involved with this as well.
Okay.
Probably the center sculpture is just something that's going to shoot up
Okay.
at it. And certainly the American flag, we have to find a way to deal with that. But the rest of it could be ambient lighting, just natural lighting. On a bad cloudy day, you don't go see it. On a good sunny day, there it is.
You can see in that picture that's there right now, the upper right is a light.
Yep.
The regular, the fancy park lights that are there. And so they could be incorporated.
I'd like to light this theatrically as much as we can, and that's why the uplighting by the statue, and then as much as we can say ambient, because then we don't cast shadows and do all sorts of things with lighting that don't show up, because we're moving around a territory, and the lighting is going to be either a lot of lighting or less lighting, just light the features.
What are you
Thank you.
looking for from the parks, lake, and trails?
Well, for one thing, is there anybody see any red lights, whatever? Because the sooner we see red and deal with red lights, for instance, that pipe that we're talking about, and we did that with the city already, but if anybody sees anything else, red lights, before we go on, it'd be a good time to mention it. Otherwise, we want to continue on, so, Jamie?
Yeah, and I was just gonna comment, this is just a discussion tonight, so kind of more of a workshop, informal presentation. They did want to start here and appreciate them, starting with the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission to have the first look at their new concept plan. Again, it's just for them to present and collect any initial feedback from the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission. And then with your support tonight, they can continue in the process of moving forward and the next steps. So any comments, feedback would be appreciated.
Well, I think it looks beautiful, and I see a green light. Switch it up a little bit.
Oh, man. I don't know if they wanted green lights.
He means go versus.
I know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
It's
it's
beautiful.
really beautiful.
Yeah,
It's something the city would be proud of.
yeah, yeah.
It'd be nice to have the first day to say, go ahead, because you know how many steps there are ahead of you, and I just commend both of you for taking it on and the people that are working with you, and wish you well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll be involved. Commissioner Miller serves on our subcommittee, planning committee for this as well. So we've had some meetings and we'll continue to be engaged, and I'm happy to provide any updates as we have them on behalf of the Veterans Memorial Planning Committee.
Yeah, Jamie has been an integral part.
It's been a fun project, so appreciate them being here tonight.
First step of many, so we'll see where we head.
Nice job.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful,
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, so next on the agenda is the downtown revitalization plan, and before we hear from staff on this, I have to make comments on this.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy, Karen says.
Were you listening last night?
I was. So I did listen last night, and I'm going to take you all back on a journey. On February 8th, I asked the city manager and Councilmember Bystrom to bring this plan before this committee via email. Actually, I'm sorry, January 26th, I did that via email, and I didn't hear anything. So on February 8th, I made another request to bring it before us, reminding them that I had not heard anything. On February 9th, city manager said that the downtown plan is still not in anything close to a final form, and it may be a bit premature for anything to come forward to this commission. He said that there would be an open forum meeting. I sent back a note on February 10th saying that if the ship isn't too far down the road and it becomes too late for us to provide feedback, I'm fine as long as it isn't too far down the road. And that was on February 10th. I'm still waiting for a response to that email, but apparently it has been progressing. And as you look at some of the meetings that have been held, there have been meetings held in April with the Planning Commission and the Downtown Development Team. There have been meetings held like last night with the council and the Planning Commission. There are significant impacts to the parks, trails, and lakes, and yet we have not had one meeting in front of this group. And I can't speak on behalf of the rest of this commission, but I can say that I am deeply disappointed and feel disrespected as a commission that this has not come forward to us after asking repeatedly. After our last meeting that I asked, I was told that there will be plenty of opportunities for us to see this. Last night, there was a pretty formal plan that was presented with cost estimates associated with it. And while I won't go through all of the details, we're looking at a wild ice recreation area. We're looking at moving the boat launch. We're looking at a downtown loop trail. We're looking at relocating the existing bathhouse and potentially partnering with Gone, or creating some type of public space. When they were talking about the boat launch, the comment was it would be really close to downtown. So I don't know what really close to downtown is, but
Now, this
it's,
other document says they have no idea where the boat launch would be moved to.
yeah.
There's no, not even speculation where there might be a piece of property.
We're also adjusting the park to add canoe and kayaking launches. You know, like I said, the beach house is being relocated. when I look at the
new little park too.
the new little park too, yes, as well, because to quote them, it is currently out of sight. The visual standpoint, it's tucked back. So we want to move the new park that we just put in, which that poured in place by itself was a significant investment. So in essence, there has been a significant amount of impact to the parks. Other commissions have had this brought forward to them. We have been disregarded. Emails have not been answered. If you look at the code as it relates to the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission and what we're established to do, one of those is to act as an advisory capacity to City Council in matters relating to parks, trails, and lakes in the city. I don't think we've been given the opportunity to act in advisory council. We could certainly get together and form our own little quorum, which would go against city rules, and apparently have our own watch party and have a discussion as a group about this. But that isn't the way that we choose to operate. You have heard me say time and time again that things need to be transparent and that we should have an opportunity. I'm sitting on emails that were sent to the city manager about other issues that I asked for updates and to be brought forward to us. And I had to beg to get him to one meeting to bring it forward to us. And we still don't have those issues resolved, but I won't bring that email out right now. But I am disappointed, I'm angry, and I feel disrespected. And there is absolutely no excuse why this commission has not had an opportunity to see this plan and have a discussion with council and the company that is partnering with them and the downtown development, just like other commissions have. We have not had the opportunity to sit in a quorum and discuss this. So we may hear an update today, but it doesn't satisfy my needs. And I want it to be on record, and I want it passed back to council, to the mayor, to the city manager, that this is a disgrace, and I'm incredibly disappointed that we haven't had an opportunity to formally see this. And we're the second class, I don't know what the heck we are, but I'm mad and I'm disappointed.
Well, I appreciate you mentioning that because I felt the same way at home. I thought, wow, when did all this conspire to be a reality without even mentioning it to this commission? There's some major changes.
Yes.
And some of them we'd like. It isn't a matter that we'd hate them all, but I think we have to be included because moving that little park, I want a whole lot of say in that.
Well, it's millions of dollars, and we're fighting to
spilled
get
it.
some money to do another park here, and
Well, and people ask me what's going on. I haven't a clue.
We have
So
no
last
clue.
night, that's why I sat and watched the whole thing, and it seems like they've got 3 different ideas. And at the end of the entire thing, I think a lot of people should have been disappointed because all of a sudden it was all these plans and all these talks and all these thoughts, and then, well, this is still really just a vision. And I thought, wow, you're making an awful lot of assumptions here if it's still just a vision when you're getting. So I felt the same way. I felt excluded. I felt like I didn't know what to tell anyone that asks me. It's not the first time that happens to me. It happens to me often. But the conversation is nil from the city to.
nothing, even when I have sent an email to our city manager on more than one occasion. We have seen nobody here, and I don't know if it's because we're Parks, Trails, and Lakes, and they think that we don't add value, but if that's the case, then we need to have that conversation as well. But the parks play a significant role in economic development, and we should have a seat at this table just like any other commission. So,
Now we'll hear from Jamie. See
now
what she
we'll hear
thinks.
from somebody as to what the downtown revitalized plan update is.
All right, well, I just had a brief update about the meeting last night that I sent the link over. Looks like most of you got to watch it, and was just going to highlight some of the items that were addressed, and just make note that there are many components relating to parks, trails, and lakes, and that was a very brief update that meeting took place last night. And I know Abby was present, so if Abby has any additional thoughts and comments on current status and next steps in this, I'll turn it over to Abby.
Welcome.
Welcome. That's a good welcome. Well, first off, if you haven't, I didn't get a chance to meet Karen, I think, directly, but again, in addition to working on planning, zoning, economic development matters, my role as the community development director is to help with the development of the community, including parks and trails and recreation. Working directly hand in hand with Jamie, I think that we have, as an organization, have identified a very large gap in terms of the development that occurs in this community and how it's being filtered through the processes. And you've listed just one of them, Chair. One that I can obviously very much see bothers many of the members of the commission, and I can understand that completely. I've asked the last couple of weeks as well when this will be coming before the commission. I know that the schedule has a community workshop planned for June 2nd. That's going to be here. It's in, I don't know the specific time. All of the members of this commission are encouraged to attend that meeting. It's an open house forum. I know that it's not a one-on-one meeting forum, but I'm letting you know that that is at least one opportunity that I've been advised of.
That is not the opportunity that we want.
I
and
understand
that's the
that.
opportunity that we were told about on February 9th. Again, out of respect for this commission, we deserve to hear the same plan from the same people and have an opportunity as a united commission to provide that feedback. So while I appreciate that as being an option,
That's for the community.
that is for the community, and we deserve the respect to see and hear and weigh in before the community.
And we can bring that message back to City Administrator Casey and Dan Undum and let them both know that. I'll let you know at least that that was what I was told last night, that that opportunity is available. I encourage you all to at least come to that. We can see how else we can get this plan before you. I have asked very specifically that at the very least that this plan comes before this commission and the planning commission before it ends up in the council's lap for adoption. So that I do anticipate would be before you at your next meeting. But I understand you'd want some more workshop session. We can let them know that you're requesting that.
Well, imagine us standing at the
June
community
2nd meeting.
and people coming up and, well, what do you all think about it? Well, we haven't really even got a discussion on it. We're individually, we'll have an opinion, but that doesn't mean much when we're a commission. So it would be more embarrassing for me to stand there and not have any real input into it. So I don't know. When they said that was gonna happen, I thought they've had others before too. So that I don't think is what Terry's talking
That's
about.
how we found out about it
Yeah.
in the first place, and that's what initiated the original email from me, was watching it online, and then hearing we could go to another one, which was canceled due to weather or something, and then.
Now we can go to another.
Yeah, if we go to
Yes.
one on June 2nd, we're going as individuals.
Yes.
We're not going as the park commission at
Correct.
that point. And I think that's what we really need to have happen.
We need that opportunity to act in our advisory capacity as it relates to this issue.
So our next regularly scheduled meeting, we do shift to the third Wednesday of the month in June to accommodate for Arts in the Park. So that next regular meeting would be scheduled for June 15th. Abby and I will certainly see if we can get a workshop format. It sounds like you'd prefer a workshop format, and maybe we can look at maybe even the week prior to our regular meeting. So we will follow up with staff and see if we can get something on the calendar for as soon as possible.
Well, I mean, June 2nd is 2 weeks away, and it sounds like the plans are already pretty much cemented, and the people that have presented it are pretty practiced at presenting it because they've presented it to multiple different avenues besides us. So I would think that there's potential for a workshop between now and before June 2nd as well.
That would make the most sense.
Otherwise, I'm happy to go to the June 2nd workshop and represent that we have no idea what's happening, and we haven't had an opportunity as a commission to weigh in, even though we've asked both the city manager and the council member to have that opportunity. We could do that as well if that works easier. Can you tell I'm upset?
Yeah.
I'm upset.
I understand.
And there is no excuse for this, and this is not the first time it happened. We're still sitting, waiting on the clubhouse and where that's at, and what's going on the inside of that, and this isn't the first example, and the city manager is clearly aware of that based on either emails I've sent. And this is just this is just plain disrespectful. I mean, this is
Yeah.
significant,
Yeah.
significant park impacts.
Not just to this park, but our 10-year plan. Because of the financial impact to anything else that we maybe had planned.
Yeah, and I
So-
believe,
and
I
they're
know,
very focused here, right? I mean, we're focused on a few blocks. And we're trying to make sure that the whole community is served.
And
Right.
just the money that we just spent on the new park up there. It's a beautiful park.
And that's when he said.
And,
So I think-
and the bathhouse, there's nothing wrong with the bathhouse.
so I think before we continue on, I think what we really need to look at is getting a workshop set up. I don't want to get into too many of the details of the proposal of the plan. I don't know, I know it's a concept plan at this point. I have no, I'm not aware of the timeline for, you know, any implementation, the timeline, the financial component and how that would affect. Is it a 10-year plan? Is it beyond that? So I think those are just some questions we will need answers to. You know, it might not be something that is in the, you know, maybe it's gonna be beyond 10 years from now. So I think we can have that list of questions, and have that all addressed at a workshop format, because unfortunately, I don't have those answers tonight, and I just wanna,
I
make
just
sure we
wanna-
get that on the
I just want to
calendar.
give the commission, I know how I felt, and I wanted the opportunity to express how I felt, and I feel that this commission deserves that same right to express how they feel.
And they did have some
So-
things that were immediate, later, and then I forgot the words they used to put them in 3 different areas. So some would be way down the road, some would be visionary, some would be at present. And so I'm thinking too, well, which ones are we going to be able to have a request to find out about? The ones that are present, or they're going to be quick?
So I think this Thursday, if I remember correctly, the consulting firm HKGI plans to release a public version of the concept plan with an implementation strategy that discusses the potential timeline for improvements that were discussed by the council and the EDA last night. So they talked about short-term, long-term, catalyst, and visionary?
Opportunistic.
Opportunistic, thank you. The idea being a catalyst project might spur other things, short-term within the next 3 to 5 years. I think long-term was 5 to 10 or maybe 15. And then the opportunistic was kind of that really big, I can't say pie in the sky, but those really big visions that might not be able to come to fruition anytime soon, or might rely on some major donor or something like that. As soon as that is publicly released, we'll make sure to get that sent out to all of you. So if you haven't seen any of this materials, you didn't see the video last night, we can at least get that out to you.
What's the point of publicly releasing it and then letting us know?
Right.
I'm just letting you know at least the schedule that was conveyed last night to the council and to me.
So then, if we have a meeting or some sort of a workshop and have a major objection, does it go, too bad, it's too late?
I'm not sure, but I certainly can let them know that you would like to have that meeting before the public release.
That's my
We
feeling.
will let them know that.
What is the, what's the, what is the urgency to do this and not taking a step back when you recognize that you missed a major commission that is impacted by this? I guess that would be a question that I would like you to carry back to. What's the 5-alarm fire here that says we can't take a step back before releasing it to the public and give this commission an opportunity to weigh in on things that could have?
I think it
What's
goes
the
back to
urgency of the
Karen's
timeline?
comment about this lack of good communication between, you know, all the different groups that have a stake.
I mean, if there is no urgency, why do this public release? Just say, hey, wait, you know what? We need to consult another commission and back this thing back 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it is. Let us look at it, and then we can present a united front, rather than us going to this open house going, I don't know, talk to them, we don't know anything about it.
Yeah, we didn't like that piece, but they didn't
Yeah.
listen to us, and it's too late to make, yeah. So
I think at this point, hit the brakes.
We can,
And
we
let
can
it,
convey
let
that.
us hear what's going on, and then you can do your public release. But to say you're gonna do a public release in 2 days, and we as a commission don't know anything about it, doesn't work.
All right, any other comments? I think Abby and I know our takeaways. You know, it's still in a concept plan stage,
And
so.
I don't think you should use that term. This is way beyond concept at this point. Mark Finneman had a concept plan. You've already got estimates of costs and things like that. That's beyond concept.
Yeah. I mean, they're calling draft implementation strategy, you know, in that
It
document.
is a pretty advanced plan.
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
it's
it
not
is.
just
And
an
we
idea
paid plenty of
anymore.
money for that plan.
How long have we been trying to get funds for Belts Park?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? Oh,
All right, with that being said, if there's no further comments, we'll follow up as soon as possible on that.
I hope that the
Thank
city
you,
does the
Terry.
right thing and says it's okay to take a timeout and do this right. That's my hope. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my thoughts and the rest of the commission the opportunity to express their thoughts. So moving on to 7B, Belts Park Master Plan, next steps and timeline.
All right, so just a quick staff update. I know you guys have been asking for an update on the timeline. So I did receive a timeline from Bolton and Mank. We are, and I do want to take some time as well to get Abby up to speed on this project, being that it's a master plan and she's only been here a couple weeks. So we'll be connecting on it so I can get her acclimated with the plan that we have before us. So the phase 1 is the playground and pavilion improvements. We did apply for the DNR Outdoor Recreation Grant. So we'll be notified, awards are notified in this summer, so June or July. Right now, we are gonna actively start exploring other funding sources, so any other grant opportunities that we can look into and fundraising opportunities to help support the cost. So the site improvements and final design will be this summer and fall of 2022. And then what we do from there is we bid the project out fall and winter of 2022. And then the construction would be slated for spring of 2023. So that is the timeline we're following for the phase 1 Belts Park improvement for the playground and pavilion.
excuse me, what was the first plan that we all wanted to implement first? What was the first, that the community had their meeting and we all voted, and then as a commission, we all said what we thought should be first, and now it's not even on the list yet. And that's the bathroom and the,
That's what I'm sorry,
The
I referenced the
pavilion, yeah.
playground and the pavilion,
Yeah.
which the pavilion is inclusive of the
you call that
the
the pavilion. Okay.
pavilion shelter, sorry. Pavilion shelter warming house
Warming
facility.
house, okay, that's, I would have known
Correct.
for warming house.
The large
pavilion, I-
building that we're gonna, our larger building we're gonna
Thank
be
you,
putting
I
in.
didn't know it was called a pavilion, so that's good.
Yes, so it was, I didn't bring the graphic tonight, just being that it's a verbal staff update, but it is the phase 1 we had identified and approved to move forward with first.
Thank you.
And so happy to answer any questions. We will continue to be moving forward here in the next month or so on site improvements and final design.
Okay, at one point in time, we had a plan or a thought, a concept, and then it went away for a month or so and came back and had been changed. Can't remember if it had sprinkling or grass or something, there was something major that we kind of said, who made that decision, because we didn't. And I was just wondering if which concept is being considered phase 1, the one that we had kind of talked about as a commission, or the one that maybe the architect would have decided that he liked better?
The phase 1 that we are talking about was supported by the commission. The phase 2 does have some questions that we need answered yet regarding the ball field. There was still some debate and question on if that baseball field, if it's constructed to be an 8 and under field and irrigated and maintained to that level of amenity, or if it just remains a community field. That is in the phase 2 component, and there are some questions we still need to flush through with that, which I think we can do. I'll, get Abby up to speed and have that conversation as well. But that is a phase 2 component.
Excuse me, could I ask in phase 1, since we don't have any graphic yet, the handicap accessibility, the flooring, the Rotary money's still sitting there for something to do with making it more usable space.
Correct.
Is that going to be in phase 1 when you talk about site improvements?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, the playground is included in phase 1, which will be equipment suitable for ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 12, and it will have the port-in-place surfacing and accessible and inclusive playground features as our priority.
This was the piece that we made a kind of, I would say, a shell of a that's not the right term, but we made a recommendation to allow the grant process to go through, and then it's to come back here to actually look at the actual equipment and the costs associated with that as part of phase 1.
That makes sense.
Correct. And that's the process we'll be in the next month or so, just to really bring that back to the table. We have the high-level master plan components of phase 1 outlined. The grant is in process. Now we're going to start looking very specifically at the construction of the warming house and the playground equipment, and start looking at the details and the cost more detailed there.
Perfect. Any other questions?
I guess not.
So more to come after the grant deadline here in June.
But something starting before that. Phase 1 will be starting before the grant is
Yes, the next
accepted.
step is the site improvements final design. So we do have some work to do before, we're waiting to hear about the grant.
I guess when you're talking about the baseball field, Jamie, I just want to make sure that we want to keep it as a community baseball field. We don't want another green field for everyone to come through. This is for the community. So I want it as a community baseball field.
I think we were all pretty
We're
clear
all
on
clear
that.
on that. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure.
Correct.
It
I
shouldn't
have
even
that
be in
noted.
Okay.
Yeah, because it shouldn't even be in phase 2 for anything else.
Right.
But when you were just kind of talking
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
you were just talking about, there were some issues that you had to work through.
Right, I know the Parks Commission had agreed on, and it was on the same page with keeping it a community field. I know that staff had a different interpretation of the use and working with the athletic association. So as we go through, also happening right now, are kicking off our Parks Master Plan updates and an assessment of our park system. I think that'll be a good time as well to have that full inventory of all our park facilities. And it's a great time to make note of that. I have it noted that Parks Commission was in support of a community field at Belts Park in the phase 2.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so moving on to 7C then, park vandalism.
All right, just a quick update for those who were not aware of this. Over the last few weeks, unfortunately, our city parks have been subject to some significant vandalism, primarily a lot of spray paint on our park equipment, signage, concrete, porta potties, things like that. The most targeted, we did have a little damage at Belts Park, but Fenway Park and Summerfield Park had pretty extensive graffiti throughout the park. Almost every piece of equipment had something sprayed on it. Just want to say thanks to Public Works for getting out there and quickly addressing that. They were able to successfully remove a majority of the vandalism, the spray paint. There are a few items that were not fully repaired, so we are looking at getting those replaced. They're sufficient for now. Most of the spray paint has come off, but we will have to reorder a few parts for the playground, so we are working on that right now and working with insurance on that. So just wanted to let you know. Lastly, my last comment on that is the Forest Lake Police Department is conducting additional patrolling in neighborhoods and parks right now, just to try to eliminate that from happening or keep a watchful eye. So just want to thank them for being out and keeping an eye on that.
And they have one person in custody as well. Not in custody, but they've identified one person already. they were all also on cars, but when you said the Public Works, and I'm sure we were out there helping, like, what I heard is the neighbors just got out there and cleaned it up, and that someone had some solution that took a lot of that off. I was just pretty amazed about those neighbors taking it on themselves. So if
Well, I
that-
would say thank you to the neighbors as well.
You bet.
I know some city staff did spend some time as well, so thanks to the neighbors that were able to volunteer right away and address that, so people didn't have to see that as they're coming out to visit our parks and enjoy them. So thank you for sharing that.
Any other questions on that? All right, we're moving on to 7D, Arts in the Park.
All right, so we are, I know Chair had asked for just a brief update on our final Arts in the Park lineup for this year, so I'm just gonna share this quickly. So, all right, so this is a draft format that's going to be final in the next day or two. I put the wrong cord in again. HDMI cord. Okay. All right, so here's our final schedule, pending all contracts get approved and signed on time, but this is our final schedule here. I think it looks like it's gonna be a great summer in the park. I do have a seasonal staff helping this summer, and she created this flyer, and I thought she did a great job with this, so thanks to her for that, and you'll get to see her around this summer a little bit. But otherwise, we are set to go to start promotions, and we'll get this out once we finalize this in the next day or two. So if you have any questions, otherwise, just wanted to give you a brief update.
Last time I saw this, it said the 6-7 Centennial Community Band was not confirmed yet. Is that confirmed now?
They're not quite confirmed. I'm waiting for their paperwork. They're available. However, I do have certain deadlines I need to meet to have contracts and agreements approved by city council. So if I don't get that paperwork, we'll
That
have
would
to see
be
what
awful.
happens.
Is there some way of communicating with them that is something we
Yeah, it has
definitely
been
need?
communicated. So
And if it
we're
isn't
just,
the day before, we could go down and talk to someone. I mean, that would be awful if they didn't get their paperwork in on time and we don't have that band on that night.
I am working on that actively right now.
If you need help, let me know.
Will do. Any other questions?
Any other questions on that?
No,
Is
is
that
it just a reminder that we did agree that each of our commission meetings during this time period, we were gonna take just 5 minutes and kind of give a thumbs up or down, or just a quick review, so that we remember next year?
Yes.
Okay,
I think that's a good idea.
yeah, well, it's fresh. Okay.
My last comment related to Arts in the Park. This is our concert series. We've had an overwhelming response from vendors, so I was about 90% full as of April 8th. So a lot of people, we have a waiting list, and if we think we can accommodate more people once the summer gets going, we'll see how everybody fits in and if that people show up. But we do have a waiting list, which I think really is a great problem to have. I think people are really attracted to and drawn to our event. It's been growing over the last few years. And the other thing that I thought was really neat to see is we have probably about 50% new vendors, and we have a lot of new artists and crafters that are going to be there. So excited to have our returning vendors, but it'll be nice to have some new faces too. So
Awesome,
Jamie,
thank you.
could you email
Yeah,
this flyer?
yes,
great.
I'll email the final flyer within the next 1 to 2 days once we get this locked in.
Thank you.
How are we doing for vegetables?
If anyone knows of any produce vendors, that is the only vendor type we are still accepting applications for.
Okay. We could maybe talk to Gail about,
We've already spoken on that, so
oh, good,
I'll follow up with you, but we have had that conversation.
okay.
Thank you for all your work getting this set up and ready to go.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to 8, we have the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission updates. So Spring Fling event. Betty, you gonna?
Well, whoever. I mean, it went really well. Karen and Jamie and I met the other day too, and just kind of did a quick what did we think went well, and what did, you know, what maybe could we improve next time? And I think we had like 400 people.
Approximately, yeah.
Good commission help with Jason and Terry and Tim, Jamie and Karen and I, of course, but, so that was good. The weather was great, the location's good. I don't know what else you might want to hear.
Number,
Yeah, it's a commissioner update. If anyone else, otherwise, I just want to say thank you to all of the commissioners. I saw all of you there, and everyone was willing and able to help, and just really appreciate all that you guys have done. I think it's come to be a great family-friendly event, and hits a certain target market that, you know, people enjoy coming out. So I appreciate all your time that you've put into it. So thanks for being there, and thanks to Abby for attending as well. It's great to see some city staff as well.
I have a 5-year-old, and she said it was the best ever. Right, so it was really fun.
3 people we should really thank, and one of them is sitting right here because Betty had to take over when Jamie had some problems, and she took over and did a magnificent job with so many things. She's great on organization. She lives in my neighborhood. I'm very proud of that because I know. And also the Rotary and the Lions.
Lions, yeah.
What would we do without them? And they both stepped up and really did a great job, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And again, echoing thanks to the volunteers and our sponsors for making it possible. So
Yeah, sponsors, that's right.
And thank you, Jamie.
yeah.
Absolutely.
My grandkids loved it, so it was fun.
The big question is, did you have to wait as long for the balloons
No,
this
the
year?
the 2 balloon ladies were much faster.
Good feedback, because I know that was an important one. So thank you.
Awesome. All right, 8B, your boat club.
Okay, I think Jamie might have, included a document. I mean, we're not gonna go through every little bit of this, but
No, you can just do a high-level update of
Yeah.
what you've been working on and what, yeah.
because we're working towards, I think, like October, we need to have a new contract in place with your boat club. So I've just been researching other locations, and I got good feedback back from Champlin, which is kind of the closest one to us, and about kind of how their agreement is structured and how much money they kind of get and what, that kind of stuff. So I did put some of the highlights here. One thing I didn't have in here, so Champlin just has 7 slips. So 6 for pontoons and 1 for a fishing boat. Forest Lake has 24 slips, but 12 of those slips are for the members, for your boat club members, and 12 of them are for anyone to rent. So kind of locals could rent there as well. And then Champlin, like I said, they were really gracious in just answering all my questions and giving me specific information. So I think probably next steps will be, I still haven't been able to find out if there's really one going into Lindstrom. I've seen nothing on it, so I still have to see if that's the case. So I think next steps would be maybe to sit down with Jamie and go through some of this and then draft up potential next contract and then bring it back to the commission for input. And I had gotten a few things from Tim and Jason, kind of when you first gave it to us, so I have those documented as well.
Yeah, thank you for all this work, Betty, to gather this information. It's appreciated and helpful to evaluate what's working in other communities or where we're at comparatively. I do agree with those next steps of getting together to start looking at it a little closer. I think from a Parks Commission and a recommendation standpoint, number of slips, I believe that there's interest in expanding, so if that's something that is of interest. And also kind of that fee structure, right, of what we're currently charging, if there's a potential for change in fees that we offer. Any revenue that we do receive currently goes into a lake improvement fund to help keep the lake maintained and whatnot. So, so I appreciate it. We can certainly get a meeting set and keep this process going and have it as a discussion at a meeting.
Could I ask Betty, you evidently did watch the city about
No, I
the
didn't
you
watch
didn't?
all of that,
Because I was
no.
just wondering myself, they never really went into your boat club area. So I think they're not Abby, am I correct in this, that they're maybe not they're not thinking of changing that at all, your boat club?
That is true,
area.
and they are exploring the option of adding in more transient slips or just day use slips for the
Okay.
general public. But there was some consultation with the DNR that still needed to occur.
Right.
so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think as we consider this moving forward as well, obviously, there's a lot of the conversation about parking and boat trailer parking and things of that nature. So just thinking of the impact of if there's increased transient slips available and if we potentially increase slips available for your boat club and the impact that will have on the space downtown.
Any other commissioner updates?
I have a question.
Sure.
Oh, do we know what's going on with the Castlewood building, the inside? Do we have any updates on?
I don't have any specs or plans or diagrams for the interior. I know that timeline-wise, it's tracking, I believe, to be complete by this fall. If I can ask for some of those plans and specs, I think we very early on when we first looked at this, high level, but I can get that for you guys.
I was just more concerned that if that building was sitting there, brand new, and we weren't making any forward progress, I think the feedback would be swift.
No, it is being worked on, and I think they're doing a great job with that from, keeping things moving forward and trying to target a fall completion for the interior build.
Okay.
I'll ask for an update or some plans and specs
Okay.
of what that's gonna be looking like, and get that over to you guys.
That actually was one of the things that was in my email to the city manager. I thought that part of the conversation was that we were to be involved with the amenities
Yeah.
and the interior design of that, so.
I believe that they, from our early conversations about the recreation programming opportunities that could arise from this building, especially year-round and winter, which include golf simulators. So I know there are plans for the golf simulators to be in the clubhouse as well. So I'll get an update. We can see, because if it is going to be done this fall, we can start talking about if and what that might look like from a recreation programming standpoint for winter, because that would be all new and different, that it would probably take some time to identify what it is that we're going to do. Partnering with community education, and they do great programming. However, they set their calendars 6 months or so in advance. So we'd want to start having those conversations real soon.
When you're talking to them, could you ask if they've had any decisions on the outside of that building for a graphic or a mural or a name or something? Because all I hear from people is what the barn is for. And, maybe some would disagree with me. When I go down 97, I wonder what the barn is for. And it could be so attractive. I mean, if they just did a little something, even got the high school kids to, I don't know what you'd put on it, but something. So it's kind of stark on the outside.
Right. I believe there'll be some exterior landscaping designs developed that can help with the aesthetics of the building. I know there have been some questions about the name of the building or naming rights. Those are things that we can bring forward
That'd be great.
in coming meetings as well as we get closer to completing that.
Doug, did you have something?
Yes, I got a couple of things.
Sure.
Clear Lake Park, any word on?
So the question is about Clear Lake Park and when that equipment will be brought in and installed. So right now July was my initial communication, just due to shipping and production timelines. I did ask for an update and I didn't get one today, but I'm happy to send you an email as soon as I hear back. I'm hoping maybe some of that initial, shipping and production challenges we saw more at the end of last year, maybe that's calm down a little bit and we can have a sooner timeline, but that was what they had provided. So I will say that there was a comment on social media in asking about the equipment, just in general, not knowing we'd ordered equipment, but there was interest in new equipment there. So I think kudos to you for identifying and bringing that forward. So we're proactively addressing that problem, so.
Clear Lake Association had its annual meeting last Wednesday night, and it was interesting. We wanted to use the community room as we have in the past. there was a new policy being developed for the use of rooms by community organizations and whatever. And so we had gotten an agreement, I thought, that we would have it in the community room. And the date was recommended to me by the city. And so we planned that and communicated it. And then when the policy was finally completed and I got our permit in, our application in, no, the planning commission had already scheduled that room. So we changed the location to the senior center, which is falls under the Parks Commission. Jill Green was great, I'll tell you that. She handled everything very well. The room was fine. It is not the community room. If you're going to have meetings of any size in there, a bigger TV, it's got a 52-inch TV or something like that, which really isn't adequate for a meeting. So the city's reservation policy, if you make a reservation with the city for the community room, and the city can then bump you out of it if they choose to use it. So to quote Jerry Seinfeld, the most important part of a reservation is keeping the reservation. Who can schedule anything when you can be bumped at any notice by a planning commission neighborhood meeting? So that was a concern. I have one other question. I see all the apartment buildings going up, and are we getting, is our fund becoming just overflowing with cash from these new apartment buildings?
That's a good question. So I think what you're seeing developed were items that have come before the Parks Commission a while ago, and now they're just getting into construction with construction season. But I'm happy. I think what you're asking is what's our park dedication fund balance?
Yeah.
And knowing that we've had a few other conversations recently, I know development is definitely picking up. Some of the projects are going through concept plans that are taking some time to get how we want them to be. So you should see some more recommendations for land, what the Parks Commission would like to see for the park land dedication requirement. I know there's a few that are very close to getting to that point. So I will get a park dedication fund balance to you, and maybe I'll work with Abby on just a quick summary list of the projects that should be coming forward fairly soon for your consideration. So.
Yeah, you'll have a number of developments you'll probably see this summer. I want to say we're working on about 4 new subdivisions. One thing about the apartment buildings, however, is the land dedication ordinance is triggered at the time of subdivision. So if it's an existing parcel of land and they're looking to build a multifamily rental, we don't actually get the chance to take in funds on that. In theory, we may have at the time of the original subdivision, if that was the policy at the time. So if it's multifamily rental and there's no actual subdivision, not a condo development or something, the state law doesn't allow us to take in funds for that. But you will be seeing.
Did we understand that?
I guess, I thought it was, quote me if I'm wrong, but I thought it was $2,500 per unit. Apartments or houses or, that's what I thought.
Oh, go ahead.
I can double check to see if that, I know there have been some state changes, but at least in my previous work, it was always triggered at the time of a subdivision. It was still a per unit cost, but a subdivision trigger.
This was part of the conversation we had last month with the changes to align with, Tim, I gave you the statute, but to align with whatever Minnesota statute that was.
We can certainly revisit that and bring it back as well.
Yeah, because I guess that was my thought too, is that, I know that development off of 19th Street or whatever was approved last year maybe or whatever. But I was just kind of curious because they're starting the 3rd building and I haven't seen any, hey, we just made another, $25,000 or something. And it is residential housing. So I was assuming that, you take four-story building by 16 units and times 2,500, that should be a check coming pretty soon. I was, hadn't seen that.
I'll check on the
Check on the
situation.
check?
Yeah.
Check's in the
Didn't
mail.
mean to do that, but I will look into that, and we can provide a summary on where we're at with park dedication fund balance, projects that were recently approved, and any projects that should be coming forward soon. And I know the new change at the state level is new for us as well, so getting acclimated of that. The ordinance did go to the city council, I believe it was last Monday. So again, it's all transitioning to that new ordinance and new process, so just bear with us as we all kind of become familiar with that, and I'll put that as an agenda item for June.
Would it be possible to have an agenda item like every other month? I know it's busy now with the summer, but to have a budget update so that we can see it in black and white, what our budget is, where our money is, and so we have a better idea of what's coming in and what's going out, because, I don't know.
Yeah, you'll definitely, the summer's a good time for that because you see a lot, right now we haven't had in the parks programs budget a significant amount of revenue and expense exchanged, just with only having done the spring fling event. You'll see more of that as we get the entertainers for Arts in the Park. Same with some rentals that are coming in. We did fill up our community gardens again this year, so all 20 plots were filled. So we did receive that revenue in for that.
That would be one good thing to know. I had no idea about that. But if we had it listed like every other month for sure, we would see some things that have been done and what's still out there.
Yeah.
It'd be helpful to me, but
I agree.
Sounds good.
I have actually one more question.
Mhm.
Driving down by Fenway, I noticed there, all those lights that, I don't know if the city bought them or if Forest Lake Athletic Association bought them, but they're just piled by the old, airport, by the old house, right behind it. And they've been sitting there for years now, so I don't know what the thought or process is with that.
The Forest Lake Area Athletic Association did purchase those, and in our a recent meeting with them, they were wondering if those are lights that can be used out at the park or not. So they were going to check with, I believe, Public Works to see if that's something that we would be interested in installing at our Fenway Athletic Complex. So they are working on that right now and having that conversation.
Okay.
good to know.
All right, anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
A motion and a second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Welcome, Abby.
Thank you.
Thank you.